St. Pete, Florida, and all of Tampa Bay is a buyer's market. There is no question about that. You have to start learning to use your leverage when you're looking at houses. So really, we're going to be talking about two things, and then we're going to look at two houses. Number one, using leverage. And that means, for better or worse, the seller's pain is your gain. You have to know how to apply leverage when you go out to see houses and when you make offers on houses. Obviously in this market, they need you more than you need them. So what you're going to be looking at always is long days on the market, a number of price cuts, bad listing photos, any sign of weakness, any signal that tells you that they're not getting as much action on that house, action meaning showings, that as they would like. And that means that you have leverage. And that's why I created BuyWise. BuyWise is a simple little web app. It's totally free. You don't have to register or do anything. Before you go see a house, run it through BuyWise. It's just 9 or 10 questions that you go through. You get a score, and it'll help you think about the house in a different way, because I see it too often that people end up going out and spending an afternoon looking at houses that were never going to make the cut to begin with. They go out and they see a house. Turns out it was a bad, it has an old roof, and the seller's not willing to put a new roof on, and so the buyer would have to pay for it themselves, and they don't have the money. It was a waste of time. So do your homework first. Go to buywise.homes, run the house through. It takes 60 seconds, and then if I'm your agent, obviously we'll be talking. If you have another agent, then talk to them about, is this a house that we can apply some leverage if we're going to make an offer on it? So let's just jump into this now. The first house we're going to look at is in Largo. The North Largo neighborhood is how they have it listed here. And I'm just going to show you real quick on the map so that you understand where we are. Here we are, downtown St. Pete, all of your beautiful beaches here. So Largo, North Largo, so we're almost bordering on the Clearwater. Up to 60 straight shot over Clearwater Beach, or you can go over to any of the other Indian Rocks, Harbor Bluffs, or Bel Air Beach. So very good location. So we're going to start rating this house right away, see what kind of score we come up with. And the first question is this house in a high-risk flood zone? Remember, we're always looking at a flood zone X. X is what we want when it comes to flood zones. A or AE is high risk. If you're getting a mortgage, that means you need to get flood insurance. Could be thousands of dollars a year. Some houses that are sort of in a moderate high-risk flood zone might be $1,000 a year. But remember what happens in a flood. If your house gets flooded, you're going to be out probably for months. It's a hassle. In my opinion, buying an unelevated house in a high-risk flood zone, you shouldn't do it. I don't think you should do it. It's up to you, but I don't think you should do it. So this is a flood zone X. We're going to answer, is this in a high-risk flood zone? It is not. We're going to go to the second question, and we'll get to the pictures in a minute. I just want to show you how the app works so you can see the value in it. How long has this house been on the market? 171, so we're 60 plus days on the market. What does this mean? This means that, once you get, 180, that's 6 months. Nobody goes into a listing. No homeowner or agent goes into a listing saying, hey, it's probably going to take us more than 6 months to sell. They all think it's going to sell. Most homeowners think it's going to sell within 45 days, which is about average. They'll accept 60 days, even 90 days on the outside if they think they're going to get their price. But once we get into that 6-month mark, we're starting to smell some desperation here. So we're going to see if that matches up with the number of price drops. We like to see a house come on the market and then a smart seller and listing agent within a month or so, which they did here. They went on the market December 8th. First price change was January 21st, so about 6 weeks later. They dropped the price by 20 grand. That's substantial. They waited almost 2 months to drop it another 10, and then they waited, so they can see a little bit of a schedule here, another 2 months. They dropped it another 15. This is not the most aggressive price drops that I've seen. If you're not getting action at 550 and you drop to 530 and you give it a month and you're not getting any showings or you're not getting any even hints of an offer, waiting 2 months to me might be a little bit much. So I'm not smelling a lot of desperation here, but we're seeing a methodical 1, 2, 3 price drops. We like that. So how many price drops? 3 or more. Put that in there. Next question, the size of price drops. We've gone from 550 to 505. That's 45,000. So between 25 and 50,000. Again, the size of the price drops tells us that they bought this house in 2019 for 352. 167 a square foot. They did a few things to it. 305 a square foot in that neighborhood is not unreasonable. So they were relatively responsive. I think there's going to be another price cut coming before too long, because once you get into that 6-month mark, you're probably looking at a listing that's about to expire. So a listing agent is going to be like, hey, if we're going to sell this thing, we got to start making some moves. So we're smelling a little bit of desperation here. Last price drop was just a few days ago, 10 days ago. So it was less than 30 days. And again, sometimes what we find is that sellers start to run out of steam because they're getting a call every month or 2 months from their agent saying, hey, we need to drop the price again. And at some point, if a seller says, I'm done, we either sell it for this or we don't sell it, that can kind of give us some insight into the motivation of the seller. So regular price drops here. The last one was less than 30 days ago, which is nice. The age of the roof. A new roof will be installed prior to closing. So we're going to mark that as 0 to 5 years. That is a big, big selling point. It's an issue getting insurance and keeping insurance. And you know, if you buy a house with a roof that's 15 years old, you better be budgeting for 12 to 20 grand in the next 4 or 5 years to put a new roof on. Age of HVAC system, they don't disclose that here. And when they don't disclose it, we tend to think it's a little bit older. I'm going to put 11 years. And then the windows, are they updated or not? This is a big selling point that so many buyers forget to look at. When you go into a house, wrap your knuckles on the window. If it feels almost like a wall, that tells you that it's probably impact windows. If it's the aluminum colored frames or crankouts, obviously those are old, they're inefficient, they're not great for hurricanes either. So those are a really good selling point, and they're very expensive, and sellers often don't get a lot of credit for that. It's not a huge selling point. So let's bounce through this house. Pretty nice, open, a lot of white tile. So an updated kitchen. There's nothing wrong visually with this house except for my pet peeve, the barn door, which on a closet I don't mind, but on a bathroom I despise. So it looks like pretty clean. Bedroom's good size. Everything has been updated. Those windows, which is what we were starting out as, we can clearly see that some of the windows are. This one does not look like it's been updated, but these look like updated. They don't make mention of whether or not they were impact windows, so I am not going to add that. So we got updated windows, but not impact. And then, does the house fit in with the neighborhood? This is an important thing, and one of the rules of real estate, as you know if you've ever bought a house, is you don't want to have the biggest house in the neighborhood necessarily. You want it to fit in for resale value, and this neighborhood looks like the houses are a similar size. So I'm going to say yes, it fits in with the neighborhood. What were your first impressions of this listing? And the reason that we asked that question is because if you're buying a house, you should be looking for diamonds in the rough. You should be looking, if you see a bad photo on a listing that otherwise fits your criteria for size and price, you should 100% stop, because your instinct to scroll past that is the same instinct that most people have. They're just going to keep scrolling right past that ugly house. And it just might have been a bad picture. Maybe the photographer was having a bad day. Maybe the lighting was terrible. But you should always be looking for diamonds in the rough, because if the listing doesn't look great, that means they're not getting a lot of showings, most likely. And if they're not getting showings, they're desperate to have somebody come in and pay attention to the house. So this particular house, this would be the cover photo on Zillow. And I would say that it's pretty good. I always wonder why photographers leave half a road in, and for example, a mailbox that tilted over. Like if you framed this picture just like this was the entirety of it, I think it would look a lot nicer. You'd get a lot more people to stop scrolling. I'll be critical of the photographer, but that's just my opinion. So on this one, we're going to say that I say it's a decent photo. I'm not going to say it's not negative, but it's certainly not a scroll stopper, which could explain partly why they're not getting a lot of action. Because also, if you look at the house here, what do you get? You got a lot of fence here, and so this is really mostly what you see. I feel like if you might have gotten an angle from here, you might have improved the curb appeal. And these trees always look so beautifully lit. So a dusk shot with some lighting here I think they would have gotten a lot more showings. So anyway, the BuyWise app, that's all of the questions that we need to ask. We're going to go to the score now. So this one scored an 83. So if you're looking for a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house around 1,800 square feet in this price range, this is something that you're going to want to go see. And what we're talking about here with this price is these homes show clear signs of value, multiple price drops, newer systems, or a seller adjusting to the market. If this house fits your needs, it's worth scheduling a showing. And I think clearly that's the case here. We've got a seller who has dropped the price multiple times. This is an 1,800 square foot, 4-bedroom, 2-bath, so nothing unusual there. $280 a square foot. You know, anywhere in Pinellas County, once you see a move-in ready house under $300 a square foot, that's not in a flood zone, that's going to get my attention. Along with it, we've got solar panels that will be paid off at closing. So now you're talking possibly a couple $100 a month in saved electric bills. So drop a comment, let me know what you think. This is a 4.2 in Largo, priced at $505, $280 a square foot. Our BuyWise app is giving this a pretty solid score, a definite go see if this fits your criteria. Drop a comment, let me know what you think, and let's take a look at house number 2. Okay, let's look at house number 2. This one is in the greater Pinellas Point neighborhood. That is in the southern tip of St. Pete. We'll just take a quick look at the map so that you can get an idea where this is. You have super quick access to the beaches, especially Paso Roble, which is a great beach. It's a quick, you can jump on the interstate, quick shot to downtown, or you can go on surface streets, maybe 15 minutes to downtown. And for the most part, unless you get like super close to the water over here, you're usually not in a flood zone. So we know that's our first question. BuyWise app, so let's double check to make sure. And there we see our flood zone X. So we are not in a flood zone. And let's see how long this house has been on the market. We have been on the market, you know, again, you got to be looking at this stuff, 111 days. So 60 plus days, you know, we know we're going to have some leverage there. The number of price drops, let's check that out. And we went on, see, this one's got a little bit more of a history because they went on the market in February. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. They took it off, put it back on. So 5 total price changes. Let's just put in 3 or more here and take a little bit closer look at what happened. So the house has not been pending in that whole time. So 3 months, it hasn't gone pending. And they started at $475 and they're at $429. So a little bit less than 50 grand on the total price drops is fine. It's not super aggressive. They started at $367 a square foot. I would argue that would have been high even for February. And now we're down to $332 a square foot. Also, I would argue might be a little bit high, but I think we're going to be dealing with a motivated seller here with the number of price drops. The last price drop was a couple of weeks ago, so less than 30 days. And let's see if we have any information on the roof here. And the roof is 10 years old and the AC is 10 years old, so that's not terrible. Not great, but it's not terrible. So the age of the roof is 10. AC is also 10 years old. And this house has been pretty much updated all the way through. Let's see if we can tell if the windows have been updated to impact windows. So nothing in the description tells us that it's impact windows, but we can see from the pictures, and it is a nice house. So this is definitely an older, a much older sliding glass door, but these windows do look a little bit newer. I mean, this is an issue I have often with flippers or renovators, and it's not to be overly critical here, but how much nicer would this look with a nice impact sliding glass door? I mean, it takes up almost the whole wall here, and they're expensive, but I think they're worth it. And these things tend not to work well over time. So I bet people are coming in and seeing this gorgeous kitchen and then dragging this door open. I think that should be replaced, but otherwise, as we just scroll through some of the pictures, yeah, we can get a better view of the window here. Clearly, these windows have been replaced at some point. We don't know if they're impact. They don't say that they are. So very, very nice renovation all the way through. So we're going to say no on the impact windows. And does the house fit in with the neighborhood? Again, we don't want to buy the best house in the neighborhood. We want it to fit in. And if we need to sell it, we don't want people thinking following that particular rule of real estate. This is a nice quiet street, it looks like. So yeah, we're going to say definitely this house fits in with the area. And what is our first impression of this listing? Let's go back to the listing photo, and I would say kudos to the photographer here, with one exception again. I don't know why they include any street. I just crop that out. It's not a terrible picture. We got a little bit of dusk shot lit from the inside. I don't think this landscaping is that great. So I guess what I'm saying here is I think this house, and if we go to the daytime shot, it's a little less charming than it is in this picture. And what that means is that people are going to stop more often and look at this house. So I would say it's not definitely a scroll stopper. I would say it's average. It's got a decent main photo. And then let's take a look at the score. And this one also scored an 83. So I think the first one scored an 83 as well. So this is a definite go see house because, and we'll just go through the highlights again, is that we've had some decent price drops, down a total of $45,000, which is nice. The house has been on the market for a while. You know, the roof's 10 years old, the AC's 10 years old, so I'm not going to say that that's newer, but it's not terrible. That should get you through a 4-point inspection for insurance purposes. So we're seeing signs here of motivation. If you're looking for a 4.2, now a small 4.2, 1,300 square feet in the greater Pinellas Point neighborhood, which is south side of St. Pete, and it's a non-flood zone, this one is definitely worth seeing. I think we've got a motivated seller. I think we're still high on the price. I would like to see this more at around 300 a square foot. There's no pool here. Maybe 310 a square foot. So 389, 390-ish. I think they would get a lot of interest. So if I was going to show a buyer this house, I would say, and they love the house, I'd say I'm comfortable going in what seems like a lowball price, but at like 389 or so, and you know, sort of snap these sellers back into reality. They've been on the market 3 months or almost 4 months now. It's time to reconsider your pricing strategy. So those were our two houses. I hope you enjoyed that. Remember, or excuse me, BuyWise.homes, and you can use this app for free. It takes you literally 60 seconds to go through. If you're thinking, and here's the example I give, if you're going to go see, if you have time to see 3 or 4 houses this weekend, but you've got 4 or 5 on the list, and you need to make a couple of cuts and you're not sure which ones to cut, run it through the BuyWise app, and it'll give you a score, maybe help you rethink whether or not the sellers are motivated, if there are some other issues with the house that you maybe didn't notice the first time through. So drop a comment. Let me know what you think of either of those houses. My name is Steve Reynolds. I'm a realtor here in St. Petersburg, Florida. If you're thinking about buying or selling, give me a call, send me a text, send me an email. I'd love to help you out, and I will see you next time.